Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. BGG here, bringing you the Dinar Updates Q&A call live for Friday the 20th. Tons and tons of news out there. Going to be a little shorter call tonight, maybe. But let me just take a quick second to thank all of our researchers for the wonderful job that they do, always bringing news into the forum, into the Facebook group, and the current Iraq news thread. Just chock full of news. Lots and lots of stuff going on. So anyway, I will get on that, but thank all of our news. Fantastic article we're going to talk about off the top, right up the top, was found Kaylee Oki Dinar found that article and posted it in the Facebook group, and I took a copy of it and posted it over in the forum, so you could save that to your favorites, because it's a fantastic article about the an in-depth look at the current situation in Iraq. So, having said all that, anything else we got to cover? No? Let me get right to it. First article is written by Douglas Oliphant, and it is in the Facebook group. It's also the first article on the current Iraq news thread. So go to dinarupdates.com, and you click on the forum, and about halfway down, third of the way down, you click on the current Iraq news thread. This article is going to come up fairly at the top. I actually posted this, and then I saved it to my favorites. It's a fantastic, in-depth look at what's going on in Iraq right now. And, it takes a striking look at the events of the last week or so. So, they're a little bit impressed with what Abadi has done, how he's managed to right the ship. Couple of things, quick headlines. As I was just scrolling through the Facebook group, here's one that one of our moderators, Vernell Washington, posted this. Tillerson to attend the first meeting between the Saudis and Iraqis. That's a little bit earth-shattering, but that's good news. We're apparently very engaged in the process of re-engaging Iraq with the rest of the world, and with the Saudis is a very big step right now. Here's another headline that was a little bit interesting. I'm sure a lot of people didn't really grasp what this meant. This was a headline from Wednesday or Thursday. I don't remember exactly. But said the President of the Republic approves the removal of the governor of Kirkuk. Here's what's an interesting side note, is this was approved by Fuad Massoud, the Kurdish President of the Republic. He's a Kurd. He's approving the removal of a pivotal person in the Kirkuk region. And I'm sure there's even more multi-layered, in-depth, reasoning for that. But it's something that people are not getting right now. This whole Kurdish referendum thing, it's not anything close to being cut and dry. Not even close. In fact, it's already in a negative sense. It's probably already over. There are things that will happen in the future that'll be good for the Kurdistan and Iraq. But as far as the negative connotations, that part of this ride in particular is over and done with. And by the way, that's exactly what I was saying from the very beginning. I told everybody just relax, take a breath, look around, just chill on this thing. It's not going to go the way. It's not going to be all that big a deal. And it turned out that's exactly correct. Let's look at the blog for today, dinarupdates.com/blog. First article, U.S. banks are considering the mechanism of working with Iraqi banks. Why would they have to do that? In fact, here I was hoping Alan would be on with us tonight, because this is one of his favorite characters, Dennis Flannery, who is a Middle East official at Citibank. And he quotes Dennis Flannery regularly. But this apparently, Dennis Flannery was in on these meetings in Washington, D.C. right after the IMF meeting. So his comment was the U.S. banks now have greater confidence in the Iraqi banks, especially after the positive step taken by the Central Bank of Iraq to fight money laundering and punish violators. I've explained this whole relationship, how banks have to work with one another, AML and money laundering, terrorism financing. Those are all main issues, and that's why U.S. banks don't want to get caught working with hinky banks overseas. And apparently, Iraq is currying great favor with in these last few meetings. So that's very good. Says the KRG, next headline, KRG welcomed the initiative for dialogue and resolving with the body the outstanding issues between Baghdad and Erbil. Of course they do. Now they want to, because the thing's gone wrong for them. Now they want to go back to they really should have inked that deal with Tillerson. Barzani, I've said this over and over, Tillerson offered the Kurds the golden unicorn ticket. He offered him international, a U.S. partner at the international table for Kurdistan. Barzani didn't take it. He may well have done themselves dirty. And, of course, they want to go back to that place now. Here's an article that says Barzani will resign in the next 48 hours. So maybe, maybe not. I wouldn't hold my breath on that. But there are supposed to be – now, I think I read somewhere, by the way, that the regional elections that were supposed to be held in 10 days in Kurdistan are not going to be held because they haven't had sufficient time to come up with anyone to fill Barzani's seat. They just want to make sure that they have a qualified person, which tells me that with this whole referendum business, they never intended at all to have elections. They were going to leave Barzani in place. So, having said that, I think this last week or so really upset the apple cart as far as KRG politics. So it's in another place right now than they ever intended. They probably will have elections, but they won't be November 1st. I don't think, it doesn't sound like they're going to be on November 1st like they were intended to be. I think they'll go ahead and have these elections at some point, but they're going to take, the simple fact that they weren't even prepared for these elections tells me that they thought this independence referendum was going to go another way entirely, and they wouldn't have to have elections. So, they're going to have to get ready for all this. In the recent headlines, I talked about the President of the Republic approves the removal of Kirkuk. Interesting, because a Kurd approved the removal of Najmuddin Karim. Karim's been the governor of Kirkuk as long as I can remember, and he is apparently no longer welcome. U.S. Chevron suspends its activities in Kurdistan. They're just kind of tweaking down the economic pressure. There was a Saudi diplomat that came out a couple of days ago and said the next phase will witness a huge business with Iraq. That is this meeting that Tillerson is going to attend with Iraq and the Saudi Arabians. Iraq warns foreign oil companies from contracting directly with the Kurdistan region. They don't want any more of that. They're not going to put up with that. Judicial Council issued an arrest warrant against Khosrat Razul, who's a KRG official. He was kind of making noise about. I think he is a vice president in the KRG government, and highly unlikely they enforce that arrest warrant. But it just kind of gives you an idea which way this thing's going. There was a headline out that said the Kurds were heading towards Kirkuk, and IMAS turns down. I don't think that's even remotely possible. Felt like propaganda entirely. There's no way that the Kurds want to engage in a head-on battle. Nobody wants that. And the United States, nobody will put up with it. U.S. Treasury says that they're going to pay special attention to the development of the private banking sector in Iraq. That's the U.S. Treasury. Here's a huge headline. A Kurdish source. I posted this yesterday. A Kurdish source says Nouri al-Maliki allowed the Peshmerga to extend for a share of the oil smuggler. What that essentially means is Maliki allowed the Peshmerga to enlarge their area in exchange for some of Barzani's smuggled oil money. This Kurdish leader said that a secret agreement signed between Maliki and the Barzani stipulates that Maliki would get a percentage of the Kurdish oil that was smuggled, and they would be a partner with the Barzani family in the proceeds of the smuggled oil, either from Kirkuk or Kurdistan, in exchange for the expansion of the Peshmerga into the disputed areas. And he gave Barzani a pledge. And this gave a pledge to Barzani when he moved down in there. I'm not so certain, and this goes back as far as 2010. um, my comments were, as time goes on, it becomes clearer and clearer why the Kurds didn't use their. Everybody was just bewildered why the Kurds, the KRG, the Barzani side of the Kurdish political machine, didn't use their critical swing vote against Maliki when they could have. And the deal was, bottom line is, going back as early as 2010, Barzani and Maliki were in bed together in a way that nobody could see. And I'm not sure I have any sympathy left for either of these guys. I would say also, going back that early, I had a contact that very much kind of shaded to that commentary. He said that Maliki has, and I didn't believe it back then. I probably believe it more now. But he very plainly said that that Maliki had allies in places that you just couldn't imagine. And so, guess he was right. Next headline says members of the Barzani family arrive in the UAE, and they are requesting political asylum. Great article found by one Bobby. We posted it yesterday. Said Iraq will remain united. You really should read that. It's a great read. And then we got two more pieces here of articles. One of them was Ali Al-Alaq, who this was a YouTube video that I posted on the blog, and it was entitled "Iraq's Role in Countering the Islamic State's Finances." This was recorded at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy, and this happened right around the time of right at the very tail end of the IMF meeting. So that was recorded. It's a very good interview, around from the 9-minute mark. If you really want to get the meat and potatoes of it, fast forward to the 9-minute mark. And the very last article on the blog today is from the Stratford Strategies, who is a worldview think tank for government. They did a long piece that I don't know. I didn't post it all. They did a nice piece though. I got you can get the link. You can go to the blog and then follow that to the current Iraq news thread and read the whole thing. It's very good piece by Stratford. The title is Kirkuk Asking the Next Big Questions. Kind of lays out the politics, gives you an idea who's involved, which way they're leaning, and it kind of, some of these news articles, by the way, is why I said what I said from the very beginning about this whole this Kurdish thing. I just, it wasn't that hard to call what was going to happen. I think Barzani miscalculated, but when the rest of the world is telling you, I knew it was going to go wrong from day one. When the whole wide world was opposing it, when Turkey didn't like it, Iran didn't like it, Iraq didn't like it, Syria didn't like it, the United States didn't like it, nobody liked it. Nobody in the EU liked it. I mean, it's when when the tides are that far against you and you've got a deal on the table that's for everything you asked for in the span of a year with a timeline on it, you ought to just take the deal. You got to make your big brother happy. So anyway, they didn't. And in current Iraq news, I think I am going to open this thing up for questions here pretty quick. Let me just zip over. What? Minister of Parliament just today calls on Parliament to proceed with the legislation for the law of oil and gas. That's crazy. We haven't heard of that for a long time. That's going to stir up a lot of the gurus. They're going to get really wound up over that. I think Tillerson attending that Saudi Arabia meeting is probably bigger news. But anyway, tons of news. Just literally so much that it's just about impossible to cover it all. Anyway, we did. *6 if you want to ask a question. I'll open this up for Q&A for a few minutes, and we'll just talk this thing over. So, first caller is from 773 area code. 773 area code. Thanks for calling, and you are a live caller. You're live. Okay. Sorry about that. Going once. Maybe hit *6 on your keypad real quick, caller, if you are trying to talk and we can't hear you. There you go. Oh, no, I unmuted. Hang on. On it. Nope, caller's gone. Sorry, caller. Let's see if we can't do it again. See if you can't hit *6 and get back into queue. Next caller. And I apologize. Whoop, here we go. Let's try. Nope. Doggone it. Okay, there you are, caller. 773 area code. Are you there? No? Hello? Okay, we're going to move on. I'm going to put that one on hold. Sorry about that, folks. Let's go to the next caller. Wireless caller, 614 area code. Thanks for calling. You're live.
Hi, BGG. This is Andy. Just had a couple of quickies for you. You answered one of them, I think. I was going to ask you about that Maliki Barzani article. That kind of confused me, but thank you for shedding light on that. Question 1 and 2 are going to be, number 1, how are you feeling now? And number 2, is there anything to shed any light on those banking meetings? And that's about it.
We are feeling great. We just had a little touch of something the other night at the tail end of that call, and we were kind of deciding whether to do it or not. We did, and we were fine shortly after. I've been bad lately. We're okay. I think it was we were both kind of a little sick to our stomach, and she had a little sinus infection. We keep passing back and forth, probably.
Glad you're better.
Thank you. Banking. Don't really know what's. The IMF is funny because they might come out with a press release tomorrow, and it might be a month from now. They just kind of dance their own. They are the IMF, by the way. But they normally are pretty open and transparent about what happened. They'll do an extensive press release about the meetings and let everybody know what happened.
Okay, thank you. That article on Parliament, that's kind of interesting. That's one of those things you just kind of wait and see what shakes out.
About the HCL? I don't know. I'm kind of curious as to whether this Kurdish issue hasn't actually pushed that to the forefront. Because they currently share revenue based on population, and that's much better for the Kurds than if they actually they did it any other way. If they shared revenue based on amount of oil, that wouldn't be nearly as good for the Kurds. If they shared revenue based on the amount of oil that the Kurds contribute to the GDP, that wouldn't be nearly as good for them as it is for population base.
This is going to be one interesting 2 or 3 weeks coming up.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, every single day like now is a thrill ride. I mean, we're getting news like you can't believe. So, hold on to your hats, folks.
I love it. I got my hat tied down securely. Thank you very much for all you do.
Strap your boots on, man. It's going to be crazy.
Absolutely. Take care.
Have a good one. Yeah, bye-bye. Okay, we got 773 back. 773, area code. Thanks for calling, and you're live. Hello.
Yes, BGG.
There you go.
Hi. I'm sorry. My phone is. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
My phone is giving me a little bit problem. I'm sorry. Hello?
That's okay. Go ahead.
Oh, you can hear me now?
Can hear you now. Just barely. Speak up, and what's your question?
Okay. Well, there's a couple stuff. First, I thank you for still doing a call in Ireland. As far as I know, you're the only person that covers the news and the real stuff in Ireland at the moment. So I do appreciate that. There's so much calls out there that spread lies, and I would say lies.
You are so right, and you're very welcome. We're glad to do it. Love to call. Love to talk about the news.
It's the news you can't go wrong, and there's a couple stuff out there that the lies are so crazy, and once you start reading the news, these guys are so transparent. And I tell people for years is once you start reading the news, stuff will come to you, and you will see stuff even before it happens, because they are fighting against a couple stuff. ISIS is almost gone, and oil prices. So they got to sell their economy. They have to have investors come in, and to get investors to come in, they got to do stuff that investors will want to come in and spend their money, because Iraq can't do it by themselves. And a lot of people are confused about just RV your currency and everything is going to be good. No. If Iraq RV the currency tomorrow, they still going to have probably months and years of coming back, because RV their currency is not going to solve their problem.
Not all of them. That is true. Absolutely. But their forward velocity on their improvements are just breathtaking right now. Just breathtaking.
Definitely.
It was hilarious, that article that Kaylee sourced for us, America's Opportunity in Iraq is Ready to Be Seized. Here's a hilarious comment by this author. Talked about the economy. It's a great comment. Oh, here it is. I found it. This huge article. I can't believe I found it. Says, however, in the larger sense, the economy continues to face challenges. Iraq's oil ministry is technocratic and clean, and a body, unlike his predecessor, al-Maliki, is no kleptocrat. I just laughed so hard I couldn't see straight. He's a kleptocrat. So, yeah. And, it talks about, that article goes on. It says a lot of good things. So, there are challenges in one of the two challenges they talked about, the heavy amounts of paperwork it takes to start a business in Iraq. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the things they keep talking about over and over and over and over, is about developing the private sector. And these regulations, what they have to get stripped away from the Saddam era, and get that over-aggressive government out of economic life. That's exactly what they're talking about. It's right in this article. Great piece.
It's so crazy, though, because it's like, for me and you, when we understand what it takes, and reading back from years ago and studying the news, you got to laugh sometime at these people out here. And, I mean, you have some of these calls talking about everything is done, nothing left to be done, so why are we still here? Crap. Iraq is building an economy. They have to come back from all over. The Constitution is rewritten. They are fighting against ISIS. They are fighting against oil prices. They're a different ethnic background wherein it's so crazy. And this referendum stuff that even the IMF comes out and said it's not a problem, the IMF have put a lot of money into Iraq. And if the IMF comes out and alarm everybody like, look, you got to watch out for that, then the investors are going to start being scared. So they got to say the best thing that fits everything. Iraq cannot RV without the Kurds, and I explain why. The Constitution consists of all those ethnic backgrounds. And when they do the Constitution, everybody has to sign off on it. And the Constitution has to implement before the RV even happens. And because there are laws that we need for the RV to happen. And those laws, most of those laws that they voted on consist of all the ethnic background in place. And for example, the federal court law. The federal court law stipulates that it's 13 judges. And you'll have to have 7 from the Shiites, 4 from the Kurds, and the rest from Sunnis, something like that. I may be incorrect in terms of the numbers. But if the federal court law was passed already, that law couldn't implement it because the Kurds have a referendum. And if they were succeeding having the referendum, and it was stamped off by the international community or Iraq, then the law couldn't be implemented. They would have to go back and amend the law. That is just.
I don't think they will. I don't think the referendum will succeed in the long run. I don't think they've kind of shot themselves in the foot right now. And
my point.
Well, you're right about the. By the way, you're right about the federal court law. It ultimately, the gist of the federal court law was that they wanted equal representation of all groups on. You didn't want this crooked Medhat al-Mahmoud on, basically a hardliner Shia judge judging everyone. You want, all, they want kind of a mixture of all the judges, so that they get someone either partial or impartial, and they wanted those population bases to feel that they were accurately represented in that judiciary. So I agree with that. Absolutely.
So my point of that is sharing that as an example is most of the law that they voted on through the last couple of years after 2005 is contained of all the three sectors or the four or whatever sectors. So therefore, if the Kurds had succeeded in the referendum, they couldn't implement those laws because those laws were created.
And kind of interesting to your conversation is that article that I pointed out that Fuad Massoum, who is the Kurd, he rubber stamped the removal of Najmuddin Karim as the governor of Kirkuk. Kind of breathtaking development there. Shows that the Kurds that are in the government appear to be willing to do government business still.
You have Braham Saleh, which is he was nominated for the finance minister in 2014, and when they take out Zabari, again his name came up. So Braham Saleh right now is a Kurd, and he's actually trying to approve a emergency government, or they call it salvation government, to go forward with Baghdad instead of Barzani. So that's in the works. I don't know if it's going to happen, but the Parliament of Iraq had approved the removal of Karim. And Massoud had a lot of slack because they were saying, why don't you speak up? Why don't you approve it? Because if Parliament make it a law, you should approve it and make it certified and get him out. And he stays in there until a body went in there, he run away at 2 different provinces in Kurdistan. I don't know if they ever find him yet. But what he did is because he started against the referendum, started with the referendum, and Barzani is going to be in the same shoes pretty soon. I mean,
that's right.
The U.S. already told him, like, dude, you got a couple hours, and if you do not, we're going to intervene. And I don't think it's going to be military. Right now, the U.S. pays a percentage of the Kurdistan army salary. That's number one. That will be cut off. They got a lot of stuff they can do military-wise or financial-wise wherein it's going to hurt the Kurds. And they don't have to be intervened wherein military. And so a lot of people are looking at the news now and they're looking at what is happening in Kirkuk. I get the call last night to like, oh, my God, it's going to be a civil war. I'm like, relax. What is taking place right now is good. It's really good. This invaded in Kirkuk or taking over Kirkuk should have been done years ago. And it's so funny, even me, I must say that I was blind to the fact how corrupt Barzani was until a couple months ago when I started seeing the stuff on the news. I'm like, okay, Maliki was a problem, but damn, Barzani was more of a problem. I did not see that.
Well, and here's at the root of all of this. You could go back as early as 2010 and stop and think, had we known what we know now, we would realize that Maliki was never going to get, now what do they call that? They didn't call it impeached or removed. They called it something else.
Confident vote.
Yeah, no confidence vote. He was never going to get, because Barzani was never going to let that happen. And number two, probably some long-term deal. I'm not so certain that Barzani wasn't in on this business with Maliki letting ISIS overrun the northern territories just so they could get in there. I mean, that is exactly what it looks like. It looks bad for Barzani right now. I mean, really bad for him.
Yeah, why not?
So, anyway.
It's just so much pieces to this thing that, I mean, like if the other day you mentioned the article, there's two other things I want to cover. I know you're probably trying to run and stuff. The first with I jumped on a call late, the last call you did, and but you mentioned something about a feasible study that they did in 2012. I've not seen it.
That was actually prior to that. Might even been, I don't know what the date of that feasibility study is. I could go look it up for you, though.
You told me. You didn't tell me. Actually, you mentioned on the call that it was the last one was 2012.
No, it's they're two separate articles I talked about in the same sentence. One was the SIGA report, was a Special Inspector General report, which was finished in the summer of 2012 sometime. That wasn't the, but the feasibility study, which was is a separate document. So the SIGA report was the one that was in 2012, and with just a quick second, I could look up. Give me 1 second. Go to Current Iraq News, Post-RV Checklist, and Flashback Documents. We have most of that exchange rate of foreign currency and economic feasibility studies. We have most of that article published. It was the Ministry of Planning .iq is where that's housed. And I don't remember what date when that was actually done, but it was probably, I would expect, around that same era.
Okay, so my point to that is that's the last time they was trying to RV the currency. Now I'm hearing through people that follow the news too saying they're doing one right now. So I find that pretty interesting.
Who's doing one right now?
Iraq is doing one right now.
Feasibility study?
Yes, I've not seen it in print, but it's interesting that the last time they tried to harvest their currency because there was security and stability in the government, Shabibi wanted it, but he didn't have the laws to do it. It's like there's a law right now, even on Parliament's agenda to be tomorrow. That law needed to be done because that law is a CPA, which is the Prussian Paul Bremer law. All Paul Bremer law, or most of it, have to remove before the RV even takes place because that's the intern government. And you have to remove those to get the original constitution implemented. So that is on the agenda, a banking law to be voted on tomorrow. So that's a good thing.
Caller, it's been wonderful. I really appreciate your insights, and make sure you dial in again, and you and I will talk.
Okay.
Thank you, my friend. Next caller. We've got several callers. I'm going to try and I'll get to everybody. Just give me a sec. Next caller is from the 917 area code. The 917 area code. Thanks for calling, and you're live.
Yeah. Hi, BGG. Great job on forecasting what this outcome was going to be in terms of the not only the referendum, but the lack of conflict and and the revelation that the Kurds couldn't afford it anyway. But what I wanted to ask you is just to retrace the comments made by Alak a while ago about trying to get the large denom bills out from under the mattresses into the banking system, and he had an idea what he was going to do. Is there still, an economic impetus? There's still an economic impetus that's pushing the idea of complete financial reform down the road, right? In terms of
sure, yeah. I'm sure there is. I don't think he ever revealed what his idea was, but I'm sure that there is some economic impetus to do that.
Right, and that that's going to help Kurdistan's financial situation and the whole country. There's constant articles about the critical nature of their financial structure of the country, and but on the other hand, they I think I saw by 2023 they planned on having the current account deficit being flat. We get at the current rate of progress, which is it's a ways away, but it seems like there are more capable people involved in managing the government, and that there seems to be a building consensus among everyone that's a nationalist type of, not nationalist, that's the wrong word, but a community of people that realize this is their chance and now they're closing in on the goal line.
I would agree with that statement entirely. That's a very good, broad statement.
Well, you are the only real, true guru. And I mean, I use that word, specifically guru, because you're very astute. You understand the country, the politics, the economics, and you never hype anything. But you're there for your members when things get tough, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, caller. I appreciate your call. Be sure to call in again next time, and we will talk again. It's always a pleasure.
I'll be there. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Okay, next caller is from the 832 area code. 832 area code, thanks for calling, and you are live.
Hey, BG. This is a question I have is Al made this announcement about the rate exchange, the things that was blocking the rate exchanges was being removed, and something about stopping multiple currency practices. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, the IMF actually, this was not big news. I mean, a lot of gurus stretched that out to make it something it wasn't. That was the rumor flying all over the internet. Is that all that they were doing is trying to liberalize their currency exchange policies. They're trying to change, in accordance with what the IMF wants, they're trying to change their internal exchange policies. It didn't have to do with international rate exchanges yet, I don't believe. I think that is still kind of part and parcel of this banking reform, currency reform, transactional currency reform that you're seeing, the push that you're seeing in Iraq, cleaning up their dirty auctions, is what that boils down to. The MCP elimination, they had already gotten kudos from the IMF in that last IMF review. What was that, 2 months ago? I mean, the last IMF review that came out, maybe it wasn't 2 months ago, maybe it was 30 days ago. It was right before these meetings. But that last IMF document very, very well documented the fact that they were giving Iraq internally props for eliminating all their multi-currency practices, with the exception, and they actually pointed it out, with the exception of one ongoing relationship that they have with Jordan for whatever reason, and they're using, I don't know, probably using U.S. dollars in that, whatever that deal is, because it's somehow mandated. But they said, other than that, they've eliminated their MCP, which is, it's not to say that they're not selling U.S. dollars or buying foreign currency, or, every country buys and sells all kinds of foreign currencies within their own borders. What it means is the government isn't using U.S. dollars to, do their daily business. That's what that is.
Okay. Well, I wasn't real clear on that. I just wanted to see if you could shine a little bit of light on it. I appreciate it.
And that's as near as I can tell. I mean, and all that's up for debate. I may be wrong on any point. So anyway, that's what I have to say.
Okay. Well,
thank you so much, caller. Appreciate the tough question tonight, and we'll make sure you call in next time. We'll do it again, my friend.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, one last caller for the night. Wireless caller from the 785 area code. 785. Thanks for calling, and you're live.
When this RV takes place, will there be a large number of event centers in metropolitan areas as well as rural America?
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear when this RV takes place, will there be a large, help me out.
Number of exchange places in the metropolitan areas as well as in smaller rural America.
You know what, caller? To be quite honest with you, it's hard for anybody to answer that question intelligently, because it's just, we're not there yet.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I love your business.
What's that? Hello?
Thank you. You do a great job.
Well, let's what I want to say is, if and when a value change occurs, in a fairly short period of time, the picture will develop as to what exchange options are available. That's why we have the deuce list. That's why we have everybody on the deuce list, so that we can get good information out to people quickly. I think it's going to be a little tricky early on, the first few weeks. But I think there's going to be a secondary market developed for the Iraqi dinar. It's going to be a very strong currency in the future. I think you're eventually going to be able to take it to almost any bank and exchange it just like you would almost any other currency, I guess, as time goes on. But in those first few, that first little time period, I think it's going to be a little bit of a Wild West show. And that's I say that not to scare you, but I think in the long term, once the IQD has some significant value and once it's an established exchangeable international currency, I don't think it'll be a problem. I think it's money. It's just different color money, and if you keep your wits about you, you're going to do just fine.
Well, thank you.
Very good. That's a great question. Appreciate you letting me take the time to answer. Have a great night. And call back. Yeah, that was a wonderful conversation. So let's do it again, my friend. Okay, folks, that's it for tonight. That is our Dinar Updates